Oh my god, the wrist roll will never get old. Look at that! Okay, where was I? Good people YouTube, I am the Watch Idiot, and today we have the Zelos Swordfish 40 in teal. And right off the bat, I'm actually going to mention the price just because it's going to play a really big role in everything that I'm going to be talking about going forward. And I got it for $270, which is just insane to think about, just because even if you consider the non-pre-order price, the regular price of $350, it's still a really amazing value for what it is. And because, I mean, we've got a great dial, great design, quick release bracelet, which is the single greatest watch feature that you can possibly have, and I'll be explaining that a little bit more. So yeah, we're gonna get into the details of this watch because, I mean, obviously there's a lot to love about it, but obviously it's not perfect, and there are some negatives to it, but at this point, at $270, once again, I mean, some of those negatives are really kind of nitpicky. So yeah, let's get into the SF40. Thankfully, it's not the SF1000. Any F1 fans here? Nope. Okay, never mind. Forget I said that. Okay, and first things first, let's just get into the dimensions just so everyone knows what we're dealing with over here. And I'll have all the dimensions showing right over here for a little while, and also all the dimensions are going to be in the description as well, so you can take a longer look at that. How does this wear on the wrist? So visually, it wears more like a big 40 slash a, you know, almost a 41 millimeter watch, just because the dial and the bezel are pretty bold and they do extend all the way out to the side, so it does give you that big watch feel without it actually being big. So if you are worried about 40 millimeters maybe being a bit too small for you, don't worry about that. It's gonna wear just fine. And also at the same time, if you think that 40 millimeters is maybe a touch too big, it's gonna be fine as well, just because the lug to lug dimensions are really nice. It's 46 millimeters, so it's a really nice and compact on the wrist. The lugs are well proportioned, and they're pretty much as small as can be. And obviously, if you take a look at it from the side, it comes down real nicely. I mean, it sits on the wrist really well, and also on straps as well. It wears nicely, and that comes down to also it not being very thick as well. So that's always a big plus point. So yeah, overall, very comfortable, very nice. Okay, and now on to the case, all over the case, and it's really pretty cool. I mean, it's very much a Zelos design in that it has a lot of different angles. It looks pretty modern, and yeah, it's pretty much brushed all over, and the brushing is solid. I mean, it's once again, it's 270, so you can't expect the world from it, but it definitely does the trick. And there are some contrasting finishes over here. The tops of the case, as you can see over here, is polished, and also the tops of the crown guards, and that's a really cool detail. And also the main bit of contrasting finish that I like is the polished insides of the lugs, which is really cool. So it's a signed crown, and I guess one of the cost-cutting measures was to not have it loomed, but I mean, I'm not really that bothered by it. Okay, and then now onto the case back. Oh boy, onto the case back. It's the traditional Zelos type of case back. It has the sea creature of choice over here, which is the swordfish, and it's a matte sandblasted finish. It's pretty cool. I always like it, and the brushed outer edge of the case back is there too, so yeah, pretty cool. Okay, and now the crystal, and the crystal is a flat sapphire crystal, and I'm a huge fan of flat sapphire crystals just because you can really take in whatever dial is underneath that crystal, and you don't have to deal with all sorts of reflections coming in from every single angle, just like the way it was on the ISL that I reviewed before. Okay, now onto the bezel, and this particular variant has the steel bezel, which was actually my choice. Okay, and the grip here is a sort of 24-sided gear looking thing. I guess I have no idea how to explain it, but yeah, you can see it over here. And yeah, it's the grip is it's pretty solid. I mean, it's not going to be like a coin edge bezel, but I like it just because it is something different, and it does go with the actual design aesthetic. And actually, let's listen to the bezel. So as you can hear it, I mean, it sounds really, really good, and also it feels just as good as well. I mean, there's a pretty much no play in the bezel. I mean, the clicks are really nice and solid, but not too tough. It's easy to turn, but still feels really solid. I mean, overall, really great bezel. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, and also we'll get into this later, but the markings are loomed over here, and a cool little detail is the lume pip at 12. Has a blue triangle, a little tealy blue triangle over there, which is loomed as well. And it does look really cool though, as a little pop of color on the bezel itself. And oh, and then also really cool detail that I really only noticed when I got in person is that there's a inner bezel on the outside of the watch. As you can see, it's a 12-sided steel bezel that doesn't move, and it's a unique detail. I don't know how much it really adds to the watch itself. Pretty cool overall, and the only thing that really bothers me is that sometimes it is really difficult to get dust out that collects inside over there. So yeah, as you can see, the dial is really awesome, and it does stick to the normal Zelos way of having really cool colors, you know, cool designs, textures, materials. So this isn't necessarily a groundbreaking dial. Doesn't have meteorite in different colors or something like that, but it's still really, really nice, and it does give you that feel of what Zelos is all about. Because I haven't really seen this color anywhere else. I mean, it's a very much a blue dial in that when it's alone it does look very blue, but the moment you put it next to a blue dial watch it looks very teal, and I actually like that sort of balance, just because this is going to be versatile and you will be able to wear this in a lot more situations as opposed to, you know, an orange dial watch. I mean, you can't wear that offen, and so yeah, this manages to stay low key but also give you that extra bit of you know, pizzazz, I guess, of having it be teal, and it's really nicely done, the sunburst effect, and also has a very slight fume effect as well, getting darker and then becoming lighter as it goes into the center, but not that intense, but it's there though, and it's a nice thing to see. And yeah, the indices are pretty cool just because it's a sandwich dial, so it's all one step below the dial over here, and yeah, very cool. You don't see that often, and the lume as a result is pretty effective as well. Additionally, the date window, as you can see over here, is at the 6 o'clock position, which is awesome. I mean, that is by far the best place for a date window, just because it keeps the overall symmetry of the dial, and also they went another step further and they color match the date wheel as well, which is really cool to see, especially at this price point. And I'm glad that they actually spent the money to get it color matched. Over here we've got the hands, which are actually pretty big considering the overall size of the watch, and it's not oversized in that it looks like it's badly proportioned, but yeah, it has an extra facet, so it's not just a one flat piece, which is really cool. As you can see over here, the way it reflects, there's you know, two angled sides on either side, and the minute hand is their new design aesthetic, and I really do appreciate that. Okay, so now the lume, and it sticks to the Zelos tradition of going overboard with lume, but obviously this is done to a budget, so it doesn't go as overboard. The bezel is fully loomed with C3X1 Super Luminova, as are the hands and indices, and they're all really nicely done. It's clear, it's bright, well executed, not splotchy at all, which is a huge pet peeve of mine. And the chapter ring and the outer edges of the cardinal indices are done in a blue BGW9 Super Luminova, which is pretty cool, and that does stick to what Zelos usually does, and they usually always have, you know, two colors of Super Luminova happening over here. And the BGW9 isn't really that bright, just because it is more of a small detail, and this particular lume pip over here is not very bright at all. I mean, I appreciate that they wanted to lume it, but I'd rather it not exist, or just have a just normal color in there without it being loomed, just because it is a really nice little detail. Okay, so we're gonna get into the bracelet right now, but there's one aspect of the bracelet I really wanted to talk to you about, and I wanted to drive in the importance of it by showing my face, I guess. I don't know why. Yeah, it's the fact that it is a quick release bracelet, and it's such an amazing feature, and I have no idea why more brands don't make all their bracelets quick release bracelets and all their straps quick release straps straight from the factory. It makes life so easy, so easy, because in the last few videos that I filmed, the Tudor Black Bay 58s, the blue and the 925, the ISL, all these other watches, it was such a hassle to think about, oh, wait a minute, I want to switch it and take it off the bracelet or put on the bracelet, but I had to think about, oh, am I going to scratch it? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? And I need tools and whatnot and a soft place to do it. It's an absolute, it's so stupid. And on the other hand, the Christopher Ward and the Zelos, if I felt like putting it on the strap for an hour, I could do that. Oh, wait a minute, I want to put it back on the bracelet. I can do that really easily too. So I just think that sort of versatility and that sort of flexibility is something that brands out there should just be offering customers. And actually, I feel like that's going to make wearing the watch easier, because sometimes it has happened that I just don't wear a particular watch just because I don't feel like wearing a bracelet, so I don't wear that watch. So yeah, I think that I really don't think there's anything to lose. So yeah, just a quick little rant over there, and that's because this is the hill I will die on. Every single brand out there has to have quick release bracelets. Every single one. No exception. Okay, let's move on. Okay, and continuing on from that, the bracelet is just on another level. It's absolutely incredible. And to think that this is on a watch that's $270 is ridiculous, just because honestly, apart from the class, if this physical bracelet itself was on a watch that was triple or even quadruple the price, I mean, I would still think that it's an incredible bracelet. It's just that good. It's very thin, which is really cool. Very thin and very comfortable in that sense. It's fully articulating, as you can see, and even despite it being thin, they still managed to get screwed links in there, which is really awesome. It really does help with adjusting the bracelet. And yeah, I mean, there's a polished chamfer bevel on either side, which is once again just another really nice attention to detail. They didn't need to do that to make this a good bracelet, but I'm glad they did. And yeah, I mean, the brushing on this bracelet is really well done. It's very nicely flat finish, and it doesn't have any sort of that rounded circular effects that happen on cheaper brushed metals, just like on the Tissot PRX, which is actually the same price, actually a little bit more than this one. And the links themselves, each of them have 3 facets, 2 on 2 angled sides and 1 at the top. So yeah, I mean, these extra facets just play with the light and catch the light at even more angles. So yeah, I mean, just look at the way that it does that over there. And there's going to be a lot of footage of wrist rolls over here, but I mean, just look at that. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, I'm so glad that they actually put in the effort on the bracelet, just because they easily could have skimped out on this and put it on and spent the money on something that's far less useful. And one of the places that they did cut some costs, which is perfectly fine in this instance, is the class, just because this is pretty much the class that you find on Strapcode bracelets, and so it's off the shelf. But even if it is off the shelf, it is a really good and effective deploying class, just because it has this safety buckle at the top over here, push button point, and yeah, it's all milled, all really nicely done. Whole lot of micro adjustments as well. So yeah, I mean, no complaints. I'd rather have this sort of clasp on this watch as opposed to a watch that isn't as adjustable and is just more expensive for being the sake of it. And yeah, I mean, I'd just look at that. I mean, nothing can oh man, once again, I mean, well done. Okay, and onto the negatives. And yeah, I mean, as close as this is to being a perfect watch for $270, it isn't. I mean, no watch is. And these are kind of a small negatives. There aren't really deal breakers or anything like that. And the first thing is the taper. So ideally, I love having a 4mm taper, but for 20 millimeters, 2mm taper is fine. And this does have a 2mm taper, but it only tapers over these 2 tiny links, which is pretty much the size of one single normal link. And that's irritating because usually links taper all the way down to about here, so that does leave a lot of extra links for people to readjust the size of their bracelet. And what happens is that it gives a very unusual illusion that usually happens with watches that don't taper at all, but it is quite apparent over here. So what effectively happens is that this part of the bracelet is closer to your eye, so it does look a little bit bigger. and it looks bigger than this part over here and this part over here, so it kind of looks like it's moving in like this, which is a bit strange to me. That does not happen on other tapering watches, and yeah, it's just I guess I don't know who else has that problem, but it is a problem for me. I would have liked to have that taper down over here, but I mean, look at that wrist roll. I mean, that wrist roll forgives all sins. I mean, oh boy. That just looks so good. And the other thing about it is that the case back, I'll show you in a bit over here, it doesn't move very nicely on the wrist, which is kind of a problem. It's not really too big of a problem, but let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. And what I mean is that there are a lot of watches that have engraved or embossed case backs, but this one has this lip over here that you can see that little shiny highlight over here. So it has that lip over there, and what happens with that is that adds resistance to the movement on the wrist, and sometimes it actually kind of knocks into this wrist bone area. I can't really show it because it's not that prominent, but so it's not too big of an issue for me, but I can see a lot of people with a really prominent wrist bones. I don't know what this is actually called, but wrist bone, I guess, with really prominent wrist bones that jut out. I can definitely see this, you know, really irritating that part of the wrist. So keep that in mind, I guess. I mean, it would have been nice if they didn't have this unnecessary lip, but yeah, I guess it's a small problem. Okay, so that takes care of just about everything, and yeah, I mean, it's a great watch at $270, and actually one of the things that I really like about it is the fact that this is a watch that's built for a price, but Zelos concentrated on all the right aspects of the watch that really matter. I mean, it still looks and feels like a Zelos, which is great. I mean, the dial is vibrant, the lume is great, the case design is really cool and angular, modern but simple in a way, and obviously the bracelet is so amazing to look at. It's so comfortable, and it is quick release. Of course, I mean, once again, I'm never going to stop talking about quick release bracelets. And honestly, it's kind of watches like this that, you know, really make me almost fall in love with watches all over again, just because this shows you that you don't need to spend, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars to get a watch that's really cool and interesting. I mean, actually, I would even venture to say that the most interesting watches coming out these days are around this $1,000, $500 or less range. So yeah, I mean, it really just makes me appreciate this weird little watch world that we're in, and just the sheer amount of selection that we have. So yeah, if you like the look of this swordfish, I mean, and you find one on the used market, just because they are all sold out, unfortunately, I would just say go for it, just because this watch really does stand out, and it really does wear pretty much unlike anything else that I have, and it's so much fun to look at, so I'm sure you're gonna really enjoy it too. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, I mean, please do give it a thumbs up. It really helps a whole bunch, and you know, hit the subscribe button as well, and if you want to get a better sense of what I'm all about before you do subscribe, check out my other videos that I have over here. There's quite a few from quite a big price range, and yeah, and then hit the subscribe button because obviously that does help a lot. So yeah, I mean, I think until the next video, good day.